Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle podcast this week with Mark Stallard and myself. It's a double header this week, previewing the home game with MK Dons on Wednesday night and a trip to Colchester United on Saturday. Here's an interesting one for you. Notts so far this season have won more points away from home than at home at Meadow Lane. Stell will be diving into why he thinks that might be the case. It's 32 points collected at home, 33 away, which makes 65. Our away form is currently the best in the division. Can we play at Newport every week? That's 2 wins out of 2 for Stuart in South Wales, and both comprehensive victories and excellent performances to boot in the past 2 seasons. Breaking news, if you can call it that. American keeper Tyler Miller has signed a short-term contract till the end of June. Did give you a little insight into that last week. But the phrase I really loved in the press announcement that's come out in the last hour, you'll love this, Stel, reads, and I quote, "Tyler is able to join us as our second elite significant contribution player alongside Maya Traore." And here's the funny bit. With Alassane Jatta now having played sufficient minutes to be considered a non-elite significant contribution player. Now, I'm not sure if they've explained that to Alassane to say he's no longer an elite significant contributor anymore. But anyway, it's a technical phrase that I think is to enable you to get work permits and all the rest. But it did tickle me. Were you ever, Stel, an elite significant contributor in your illustrious career?
I was called many things during my career, Paul. That was not one of them. An elite, significant contributor, was it? It's not a phrase that rolls off the tongue easily, and it's not a phrase I shall be trotting out on many occasions, I'll be honest.
Taboo or not taboo Dan Crowley when MK Dons come down to town on Wednesday night? I think I know the answer to that one. 2 goals for Charlie Whittaker in Saturday's win. What do we think of Charlie and how he's adapting to life in the men's leagues of EFL after being in Premier League underage competition? Notts have this afternoon announced a freeze on season ticket prices. Renewals from next week start. Adult prices in the COP from 325, and there is safe standing being introduced at the back row of the COP for the first time. About 750 seats by my reckoning. The last 6 rows. How many of the flock will be going into the safe standing area right at the back of the COP? Thanks, as always, to our partners and sponsors, JH Accountants and the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation. And do not forget, if you've not already got your tickets for Lee Hughes Live on Thursday, May the 1st, 48 hours before the final home regular season game against Doncaster. Get them now. They're selling extremely quickly. Advanced weather forecast, it's going to be red hot, so don't worry about bringing blankets and thermals like it was for Martin Allen. Only a tenner. You can get them from our official website. Get your e-tickets direct. The links are on this podcast. MagpieCirclePodcast.com will get you those tickets. Right, cool. Blimey, that's a bit of a long intro. Right, let's start. I think it's an interesting topic. More points away from home than at home so far. It's clearly very, very narrow, that gap, and hopefully the home form takes in the ascendancy on Wednesday. So what do you put it down to? I mean, I'm guessing in your career there wouldn't have been many seasons when playing in a team that got more points away from home than at home.
No, I mean, I wouldn't have a clue off the top of my head, but you always assume that you pick up more points at home. Of course you do. That's sort of been the nature of football forever and a day, hasn't it? What do I put it down to with Notts? I mean, we mentioned this a couple of times this season, and I think we were talking about it last week. Not in terms of points, but in terms of looking forward to looking ahead to the Newport away game, and saying that maybe Notts at the minute are better suited to playing away from home. I think where teams are expected to come out, make a little bit of the play, make a bit of the running. And so it's proved over the season that yeah, they have picked up one more point away from home than they have at home, albeit they've played an extra game away from home than at home. So, that could right itself a little bit. But I think there is something telling in that. And I think more telling is the stat in terms of total goal contributions. Now, all the goals scored for and against at Meadow Lane in Notts games this season, there's 39. 39 goals at Meadow Lane this season, whereas away from home, 58. 58 goals for and against. So a lot more goals in them away games. Now, there's a game difference, but unless there's a 19-goal game at Meadow Lane, it's not going to even itself up. So I think that, allied to the points bit, just alludes to the fact that the games are more open when we play away from home. 58 goals would tell you exactly that, as opposed to 39. I think teams are going to come to Meadow Lane and as we've seen on occasion, I'm not going to say play for a draw. I'm going to say sit deep, be mindful, know how good Notts are, know how good they are with the ball, and they get bodies behind the ball, and they're organised, and they come with a plan to be difficult to break down and look to play on the counter attack. So I think that is, in a nutshell, why we've seen maybe that slight discrepancy, that for Notts, it's a little bit, not to say easier, it's not as difficult playing away from home, where teams will come out. The home fans won't allow them to sit in low blocks. They won't allow them to just let the opposition have the ball. You've got to make some of the running. And I think for Notts this season, particularly with that sort of more solid base as well, I think that suits them particularly well. So, the stats point out, like, they've done better away from home, albeit, I say, very marginal differences. But I think it's more, as I say, in them goals. Total goals away from home, 58, and total goals at home, 39. So it shows that the games are, far more open. There's far more goals in them away games, and that maybe backs up the point I'm trying to make.
Does it also point, Stel, to being more resilient this year than last year? Because a lot of teams can be quite successful with a remarkable home record and literally can almost get promoted, only winning 2 or 3 away games all season. One of the criticisms last year was that we were quite, brittle, call it whatever you will. But to have gone away to so many grounds this season and to have the best away record of any club in the division demonstrates that we can cope being put under a bit more pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you see with your eyes we're more resolute this season, and everything will point at that. We are tougher to beat. We're maybe not as free flowing attacking, but for free flowing, read sort of gung ho and kamikaze at times last season. So that the number of goals conceded last season tell you that we're not going to match the number of goals scored last season, but we're certainly not going to be anywhere near the number of goals we conceded, 99 last season, which was just ridiculous, really. So look, I mean, we are far more resolute. We are solid. We've built good foundations. And what I think last week we were mentioning about the January transfer window, looking at question marks in that potentially. But to go the other side and give a little bit of positivity to the recruitment process is that we've obviously learned from last season, haven't we? We learned. I mean, it was obvious to everybody where the main issues were. But again, it's not like you're conceding too many goals. What do? You need a new goalkeeper. That solves it. You need a new centre half. That solves it. You've got to embed it within the team. So they've bought better defenders. They've embedded them within the team well, and they've got the whole team defending better. We're solid, more resilient. And as I say, that's probably, as you're right, that's a key factor and a contributing factor into why we've got the best away record in the division so far, or at this point. So yeah, we're a team that's evolved from last season. So it's there's of course it's not all perfect, but it has evolved. And I think that we said at the end of last season with Mansfield getting promoted, I think it took them about 4 years of evolving to get the right squad to get over the line. So I hope it doesn't take Notts that. We hope going to get it done this season. But that's what I'm saying with football. You've got to learn, adapt, and evolve. And in large parts, I think Notts have done pretty well with that.
Excellent. Let's get a few thoughts on the message boards. Phil Summo, is this the weirdest league ever? No one seems to want to go up. Gazali, sorry, can't get on live tonight. As for Dan Crowley, he's got more chance playing National League than the Championship. Evening from Richard Elvian, Paul Huskerson, Ian Haywood, Jurgen Halligan. Thought Newport were one of the poorest teams I've seen this season. I think on that 90 minutes, Jurgen, they were poor, but they have got a very good away record. And, you only play as well as the other team lets you. So I thought Notts were very comprehensive in their win. And it reminded me a little bit of when we went down midweek last year, and very, very comprehensive and good value. And I think for once, I never really felt we were in any danger, even when it was only 1-0. I always felt we had plenty in the tank Saturday. Richard Terry, greetings from Woodborough Pies. Great to be back to winning ways. Miss the Me Ducks commentary. Still, you weren't there. We'll come on to that in a minute. Excellent news today on next year's season ticket prices. Big thanks to the club for freezing them. Evening from Graham Oates. Paul Farnsworth, out of a possible 21 points available, which would take us to 86. How many do we truly believe we can achieve? We will come on to that later in the programme. Similar point from Shane Walker. 7 to go, 21 points to play for. We can make the autos, surely. We will make it. Jurgen is announcing the completion of the signing of American goalkeeper Tyler Miller. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. But Chatwin, it's weird to think that after the Tuesday and Wednesday fixtures, there could be just 3 points separating the top 6. Is that right? Okay. Phil Lafbury, evening to Phil. We'll be listening in the car, just setting off on my way to Manchester for a 2100 hours pickup bound for London. Great news about the season tickets. Not sure if that's the brothers you pick it up, Phil. I know that you are a consummate chauffeur extraordinaire and help ferry around our brothers to all points of the country, Meadow Lane and other football stadiums in League Two, and do a very good job too. Adam Kent, we should be kicking off in daylight on Wednesday night. Don't like it when there are no get-ins with no Stell. Ian Cooksey, evening, and from Ray Newton, and new keeper in town, says Ray. Adam Kent, we should ignore Dan Crowley. Booing will just get him pumped. Not acknowledging him will pee him off. Definitely clap Aaron Namando, and at the same time get Palmer to tie his shoelaces together. Evening from Lippy Jane and from Kay. Evening from Rich Hawksworth from the Costa del Marlo in his multi-million-pound mansion down there, Mr. Hawksworth. Well played, Notts, for keeping the prices down, says Kenneth Pointer. Martin Shipley, last week I forecast 8 straight wins, 1 down, 7 to go. Evening all from Luke Beardsley. Finally a night away from fixing trains. Wasn't able to make Saturday's game, but a very positive result leading into the final 7 matches. Kay says great incentive from the club regarding season ticket prices. Tim Watchorn, great performance at Newport. Let's hope for the same on Wednesday. Just remember, it's Wednesday, not Tuesday. There's some, I don't know, non-league game going on in Nottingham on Tuesday night, so the police insisted we move to Wednesday. Okay, so Wednesday 7:45. Lippy Jane, I really like Aaron the man. I hope he doesn't turn up, to be honest. Probably right about Crowley. I don't like booing. Could we hiss instead like a snake? Oh dear. No, I didn't agree. Ignoring would be the best move. Evening all from Mark Williams. 7 games to go. All cup finals is how we should approach them. Still hanging in there and as good a chance as any team of the automatic places. Evening from show regular Pythagorean and Adam Kent. Yes. Oh, safe standing. Yay. We'll be moving back up to the top of the COP. Evening from Martin Blaney. Let's hope for 3 points on Wednesday. Richard Elvian. If Crowley booed, I'll fire him up. Maybe a polite, quiet hand clap. Jody on the bench, question marks on Saturday, says Richard Elvian. Well, he's on the grass, whatever that phrase is. I was on the grass at Coxmore Golf Club this afternoon, but I don't think I come into contention on Saturday. Karen Knight, hello. Richard Elvian. Charlie won the battle with our former Notts loanee Martin on Saturday. Indeed, he did. 7 cup finals, says Matt Arnold. 7 wins and will probably be promoted. Makes it sound so simple. Great news about season tickets, says Colin Metcalf. I love our club. I, for one, will find the monthly direct debit option a massive help. Well done, Notts. Linda Lou from the Algarve. Ian Haywood. I reckon a lot of teams come to Meadow Lane and the majority just sit with a low block. Chris Gosling, the most powerful thing we could do for Crowley is ignore his presence completely and consign him firmly into insignificance. Currently, we're at 6,500 season tickets. Richard Elvian says 7,000 season ticket target would be stunning with the direct debit option. Dave Hartshaw, good evening all. Nothing against Stell, but it was very nice to hear Andy Legg at Newport. Glad no announcement on MK Don's new head coach, says Richard Elvian. Just imagine if it was Luke Williams coming back on Wednesday. Plenty of goals, says Stephen Shepherd. Not bad for a boring team. Chris Gosling, Sam Slocum kept 20% of our clean sheets this season. Think the back three have really protected him well since his return. And lots and lots more coming in, but I'll take a break, give him a voice break. Stel, what should we pick up on? Goalkeeper, but news has broken the last hour. Tyler Miller, American. Played for several teams in the MLS who I do some work with. So, I've heard good reports about him. Released by DC United at the end of last season. He had a trial, whatever you want to call it, with Inter Miami in a month or two ago. Yeah. And he was on the bench with a certain Lionel Messi for one of their pre-season friendlies in Vegas. So now I personally think they'll stick with Sam. Get your thoughts on it, more important than mine. But I suppose it will be interesting, won't it, that earlier this season, Tyler Miller is on the bench with Lionel Messi, and now he's on the bench with, I don't want to be disrespectful here, Mado Cisse, Curtis Edwards, or whatever. Do you stick with Sam until such point as you don't stick with him?
Well, yeah.
What I mean.
Of course.
Sam has Sam done enough for you to keep the shirt?
Absolutely. He's done nothing wrong. As he conceded 2 goals against Chesterfield, not his fault. Other than that, clean sheets. So, Sam's the man in possession. He's the man in between the sticks. And I imagine they will stick with him. Obviously, I know nothing about this Tyler Miller, and we wish him all the best. But no, Sam's the number one at the minute. He's the man in between the sticks. He's in possession. He's done nothing wrong, so he's got to keep the shirt. So Tyler Miller, we hope, will bed in. You'll have to tell me, Paul. I don't know the length of contract they've given him.
Yeah. So what they've done is they've done a deal until the end of June. So it's a short-term contract, not a loan, because obviously we could only sign free agents. So he was released by DC United at the end of last season. He's played well over 100 games in Major League Soccer with Minnesota, with LAFC, Seattle, and most recently his club was DC. So he's played for some of the bigger clubs in MLS. I think he used to be in American under-21s or under-23s. And as I say, he had a tryout in Miami, because obviously the MLS season runs from kind of end of February through to November. It's an unusual season. It's not like a Western European season. So he's obviously not been able to get a club since he was released by DC. He's come over here. He spent the last 10 days training with the players, and they've been waiting to kind of get the clearance and all the rest of it over the line. This kind of points, doesn't it, to I'm not sure we'll see Alex Bass anytime soon. But what it does, of course, now give us is 2 seasoned, experienced goalkeepers, one to start, one to be on a bench.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think, okay, if they've done it till the summer, it's 7 games in the league, obviously, but it's a chance, a couple of months, have a look at him. Obviously, I would have thought with a view to maybe seeing if he's worth extending and taking longer. I don't know what the situation with Sam's contract in the summer is. So you would think that he's somebody who's been on the radar. Yes, obviously available on a free, but you would think in this sort of 2 months then that he's got, it's a chance for him to show what he's about, and then maybe we'll see him here for longer. But like I say, I think Sam will remain in the goal for the Wednesday night game, and like I say, then you've got somebody pushing you, somebody experienced as well who's pushing you. So it just keeps you on your toes. Just keeps it shows that. It shows the intent, I think, of the club and everything, that they could have gone, well, there's only 7 games left. Let's just see if we can muddle through. Milai Pierart on the bench, Sam Slocum's experience. Let's just leave it. Let's not spend an extra few grand and bringing somebody in. Let's not go through the hassle and the cost of bringing him in. They've gone, no, let's not leave it to chance. Let's go and do it. So, again, credit to the club for it. And we'll see. We'll see whether it's a literally just a 7-game thing or whether there's anything more long term in it.
Yeah, so we're all doing the permutations, aren't we now? So 7 games to go. We've got 65 points. I think certainly a benchmark for autos has been you've kind of got to have an 8 at the front of it. Yeah, starting at 80. We're on 65. I mean, a personal view, I think to stand a chance of autos, we'd have to win a minimum 5 of our last 7. That 5 takes you to 80. You might pick a point from a draw, whatever. I don't think you can afford to lose probably more than 1 game for autos. I mean, discuss. What's your take on it? I know you've been doing the homework as always, and a lot of the other teams around are playing. Do you think it needs to have an 8 in front or not for autos?
Look, it's absolutely impossible, even with only 7 games left. I know Doncaster and a couple one of others have got 8, but you look at how many teams are playing each other. You look at the crisscross of fixtures of who's still got to play who, and it is nigh on impossible. We try and predict at the start of the season. Well, now we're going to do it with just 7 games left, and we still can't get anywhere with any certainty because you just don't know. One of them teams, and I'm looking at the league table, and like I say, I've been looking at the fixtures, who's got who to play. I think as we stand now, I think all the way down to Chesterfield in 11th have got genuine hopes of playoffs and above, obviously. So I think there's 11 teams genuinely in the mix. I think looking here, yeah, Fleetwood are in 12th, 53 points, 9 points out of playoffs, 7 games left. I think that's probably a big ask with all the teams that's above them because they can't all drop points. They can't all pick up maximum, but they can't all drop points. So I think that'll be a little bit much for them. So 11 teams at this stage of the season. And again, tomorrow night's fixtures, 6 of the top 9, 6 of the current top 9 playing each other. Same again Saturday, and we're one of them against Colchester. 6 of the top 9, as we are now, play each other again on Saturday. So how do you predict and forecast when we're not going to do it anyway? But now there's so much crossover. Like I say, I've tried looking at each team's individual fixtures, each team's running, and it's like a London Underground map. It's crisscrossing over everywhere. They could win, they could beat. So if 3 teams basically go unbeaten until the end of the season, you think, well, they're going to be the 3. But likewise, no teams might go unbeaten until the end of the season because everyone might take points off each other. The form guide at the minute, the biggest unbeaten run in the league at the minute is Tranmere, 3rd bottom. They're in better form than the top 9, basically, or certainly top 7. So it's just a crazy league, as we've sort of said all through the season, magnificently inconsistent. And, we just don't know which way to turn. And I think that's my way of sitting completely on the fence for your question about, do I think what point? I mean, I'm still going to stick to 80. I still think 80 is what you've got to look at to think about the top 3.
Yes.
Because the same reason everyone's playing each other, somebody's picking up points. If it's not going to be a point apiece, somebody's picking up 3 points. So I think you've still got to look at 80. If you get to 80 and it's not enough, then you go, well, do you know what? Hands up, fair play. There are 3 better teams or whatever. So I'm with you. I think 5 wins out of 7. Obviously, it could be 4 wins and 3 draws, but I think you'd have to be looking there or thereabouts. But that's not to say with a run of fixtures, a load of draws between all these teams and what have you, a few upsets, it could be mid to high 70s. But you imagine 80 is probably going to be nearer to it.
Yeah, let's get some more thoughts on the message boards. Matt Arnold, great news regarding the direct debit option on season tickets. Shame next season will be the first time for 20 years that I won't be getting a season ticket. I'll be a dad for the first time in August, so priorities change. I'm sure you can bring him down, and the club, a newborn will be free. Matt, come on, get yourself sorted. Get the old Notts County baby grow from Lynn in the club shop. Gary Phillips says another experienced attacking option would have been perfect in January, but they are so hard to get without breaking the bank. Andy Esom, happy birthday today to Adam Hassel. Is it right? You should know this, Stel.
It is, yeah. It's Adam's birthday today.
We'll be on comms at Colchester, as David Bracegirdle is going to be doing his comms at the cricket. Andy Esom seems to know more about Radio Nottingham assignment duties for sporting commentaries than you do.
Well, it's not difficult, but yes, yeah, he's absolutely right. Yeah, Adam's birthday today. Congratulations, Adam. But yeah, Dave's doing Wednesday, MK Dons, and then he's back to the cricket, getting the whites back on, and Adam's coming out to do the remaining 6, so he gets the running.
Yes. Evening alls from AD Clark. A good win against MK will give everyone a huge lift for the run-in. Ian Haywood, some of the away grounds are weird, with some built within housing estates and to be dropped off on the street Saturday goes to show how well Meadow Lane and our ground is. Yeah, I think Ian's is kind of talking about some of the old stadia that are built in the middle of housing estates, parking, etc. I have to say, Newport's new pitch is great, absolutely great. And as a club, don't forget they used to be at Somerton Park, which I've been to. I don't know. Did you ever play at Somerton Park, Stallard? Were you too young?
I don't think I did. No. I missed that one out, thankfully.
A lot of people talk about the Wimbledon story, but Newport have really had to do every bit as much as Wimbledon, if not more, because I think they were playing something like about 90 to 100 miles away from Newport, places like Moreton in the Marsh when they dropped out the league. I think they dropped out the league in about 87, 88, I think. So I think they've done really, really well, and they're developing the ground a bit now. And as I say, the playing surface, I think now is probably one of the best in the division. Who else have we got? Richard Elvian. It's an interesting one. Would folks be happy paying more for season tickets if funds went into recruitment? Or I guess you kind of set up a separate little fund. Interesting point. I must say, I think it's great the clubs have frozen season ticket prices. I mean, look, I don't want to talk out of school here. I probably would not have been averse to the club levying a small up to 5% increase, given the entertainment value, the atmosphere at Meadow Lane these days, given the size of numbers. I wouldn't have been disappointed, but clearly, for those people, and there are many who are on a tight budget, I think it's been very, very good by the club. Old Chestnut, I love it if they kind of opened up the Cyril a bit more to Notts fans, but I get it. I understand the principles of what they're trying to do. Richard Hawksworth, Crowley got a shed load of abuse from the Cheltenham fans and absolutely rose to it. We should leave him alone. Jurgen Halligan, good to see Matty Pipe at Newport acknowledge the Notts fans. He's a good lad, Matty. I know Matty a little
bit. David Pipe.
I was going to say Matty Pipe is David Pipe. Yeah, he's got the. Hey, are you a body double for David Pipe, Stel?
yeah. I'm a body double for one of his arms. Yeah, he was an absolute beast on the weights when he was playing. Because I played with him when I came back on loan, and he's not stopped with the weights, has he? Looks like he swallowed a couple of dumbbells. He's absolutely massive. Yeah.
Yes. I'll tell you what, if he told you to do a few things in fitness training, you'd do them, wouldn't you? You won't cock a deafen to him.
Yeah, I bet say, bet he has his way around in and around the place. But went down there and played, didn't he? And I think officially kit man, isn't he? Is that his official
Kit
role
manager.
down there? I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. A bit like Mark Draper when he came back to Notts was kit man initially. Did a bit of coaching as well. Gary Phillips signing an experienced keeper to get us through the season is brilliant. Sam hasn't played much, and with the luck we're having, chances are he could get injured. Come on, let's hope not, Gary. Derek Flowers. The best way to see to pee Dan Crawley off well and truly will be to go in at half-time 3-0 up. Could Tyler be our number 2 next season with Sloke stepping down, says Richard Elvian. And Jurgen's corrected himself. Good to see David Pipe. I don't know, he may have a brother, Matthew, was there at Newport as well. I don't know. What else have we got here? Chris Gosling. What price Tyler Miller coming on for a penalty shootout at Wembley? Freezing the season ticket prices, says Gary Phillips, and adding a direct debit option at this point with a big chance for promotion is some statement from our owners, all designed to build the fan base even further. Dan Crowley, going back to your old club, Stel. I mean, can you remember going back to any of your old clubs and getting a bit of a hot reception? Does it make a blind bit of difference? Did you always want to stick one on a former club? Did it give you an extra yard in the box? Or what goes through the mindset, if you like, when you're going back to former clubs? And there might be a bit, background story to it.
Yeah, I'd have loved it to give me an extra a yard in the box. Unfortunately, nothing ever did. Um, there's no doubt about it. Going back to a former club that particularly when you've been there a bit. I mean, it's not like the same if you've been there 3 months on loan and you go back 5 years later. It's not quite the same. But when you go back recently and sort of you're talking Dan Crowley and Aaron the Man and as people have mentioned already on the comments, I think you would ask people's opinions of the two players, and you would get two different verdicts on them, not in terms of their ability, but in terms of their reception they're likely to get when they come back. The fact, I don't think anybody's considering booing Aaron the Man necessarily. I maybe just as a bit of banter because he's now playing for a different team. But I think everyone goes, well, he did everything he could while he was in a not shirt, and that's fine. And Dan Crowley's slightly different in terms of, like I say, ability-wise and what he did, probably more notable than Aaron the Man. The goals that he scored and the way he could control games. But there was just, like I say, I don't think he was ever warmly taken to after the cupping of the ears and that celebration, one or two other little bits. So, yeah, he'll get a slightly cooler reception, shall we say, than Aaron the Man. So, but what does it do? It depends on the individual as what motivates you. But to those people that said it, yeah, complete ignorance will be the best possible thing because you want to, you'd like to think that you've made an impact somewhere.
Yeah.
And by getting a reaction, be that booze, be it, I mean, I came back to Notts, got a great reception when I came back, and I'll never, ever, ever forget that. And it was brilliant, but I think he will want a reception. Now, if it's booze, that might just, oh, God, I'm going to show these. And if it's applause, you might go, oh, they love me, they think I'm great. If it's sort of muted nothingness, then he might, all right, okay. I didn't think people had noticed me then. I don't think it makes a great deal of difference, but I think there's a little bit. It depends on the ego, I think, as well of the player. I think that's the thing. But yeah, I mean, look, people will react however they're going to react. Whatever we say on here is not going to control the thousands of Notts fans that are going to react. So react however you want to react to him. It's more down to George Abbott, Matt Palmer, how they control him rather than what the fans do. And hopefully, like I say, they keep him out of the game and we give him the runaround.
Indeed. Greza Maxwell, when I was hanging the Ford shirt up in the background over there, I did think of you, Greza. For the Ford shirt, I will trade you a Keith Chegwin topless calendar from 1984. I can't believe you bought it, A, and B, kept it, Greza. Watched Colchester's game on Friday, says Ian Cooksey. What a disgrace their pitch is. I hope nobody gets injured on it. There were that many craters, it looks like playing on the moon. Sam is out of contract, says Cyprus ref at end of the season, although love him to bits as long as the ball is not at his feet. So probably will not be offered a new contract, he says. Well, we'll see what happens. We will not need to go to Wembley, says David Amy. He's being positive. MK Dons, Stout. I mean, the kind of a team, a club, a legacy of Wimbledon and moving. A lot of clubs don't have a lot of fans don't have a lot of time for them. Plastic manufactured, all of that sort of stuff. I understand why they might think like that. I don't necessarily agree with all of it because I think it's a great stadium. It may or may not be too big for them, certainly in League Two, but it's a great stadium. It's a good place to go, easy to park, all of those sorts of things. So I don't have a problem with MK Dons. But it's interesting. Each year, one or two of the clubs who are the biggest spenders chronically underachieve. We saw it with when Notts dropped out of the league. We were probably one of the 3 or 4 biggest budgets in the league, dropped out of the league. Oldham at one point, they dropped out. This year, I think it's fairly common knowledge, Carlisle have got one of the very biggest budgets, and they look, even with the appointment of Mark Hughes, likely to be dropping out. Is it 9 points now? They're off it, thanks to Tranmere's good run. And clearly MK Dons have spent a lot of money, new owner, signed quite a few players. Notts' owners themselves said that the valuation of the players that they had, MK Dons significantly bid more than that to take some of our players. They've changed managers, Scott Lindsay gone again. I guess they're an example that spending a lot of money in no way translates to any form of success, because we spoke about nearly half the teams still having a chance of playoffs. I think was it 11 you said. Well, they ain't one of them. They ain't one of them, are they? I mean, they are not getting in the playoffs this season. Full stop.
Oh no, definitely not. I mean, chronically underachieved when you compare to the budget. Massively underachieved. But again, it's another example. And there's many of them over the years that yes, money should give you an advantage because it can widen the pool of players that you can go and afford and go and attract, but it doesn't guarantee you anything. And I think sometimes money lower down, and again, we can take this as credit for what we've done at but what Notts have done with the money is that you can go and throw money to attract so-called better players. But in League Two, the lower down you are, you have to question the motives and the motivation of players, and they're all individuals. It's all different to actually take that money. Now, is that I've got a good contract, bumper contract, MK Dons have brought me, and I'm not thinking of any single player here, but anybody could think, right, that's the pinnacle for me. Happy days, they've given me a 2-3 year contract, more money than I'm ever going to earn, and do you know what? Easy Ozy, happy days. That can be the mentality. If it's slightly more senior players, it can be that final payday. Do you know what I mean? Where they go, and then motivation to really run through brick walls isn't there. Well, I'm just seeing out my career, comfy, whatever. It can get like that. It can also lead to little cliques and clashes in the dressing room off the pitch. You're there on a decent contract. What about the lads that have been there for a few, I'm going to say years, not many's there, Dean Lewington maybe, but lads that have been there for a while, or this is any club with money, you start looking and thinking, what are they earning? I wonder how much they're being paid, and it can create problems. So again, having money is one thing, and I'm sure every coach, recruitment, job, everything like that, they would want money, because it just opens the door to more, gives you more access to a wider quality of players. But if you don't use it right, if you don't do your due diligence, if you don't have, say, data analysis on the players that you're recruiting, then maybe, and we've seen it not just with MK Dons, Carla, we've seen it throughout the years at a lot of levels, but it can sort of get you a bit of a disparate bunch of players. where they're all getting well paid, or a lot of them are getting well paid. And, when you're getting well paid, what's the saying? It's difficult to get out of bed in silk pajamas, So the more money, sometimes it can just round off some edges that people really want to dig in, really want to go through brick walls and do the ugly things. They all might think they're players. I'm great with a ball, me. Get somebody to give me the ball and I'll make something happen. But if you have too many of them in a team, then you don't actually get the ball. And they're second, or joint second, aren't they, in MK Dons in conceding goals. There's only Newport who've actually conceded more goals than them this season. So, maybe that's part of it. Too many so-called artists, not enough soldiers. Look, I don't know. I've seen them once this season, but that's just in theory. That's what money can do. That's the problems it can create. You've got to manage it. You've got to manage them egos when they come in. And again, like I always say, the jigsaw piece of a squad and a team. You've got to put them jigsaw pieces together, and you've got to manage them and keep them happy for 9 to 10 months. And the teams that do that end up at the top end of the table, sometimes irrespective of budget. But largely budget helps massively, of course it does, but it is certainly not the be all and end all, and it can, on occasion, cause more problems than it solves. And again, if you start chopping and changing managers, you'll end up with players that different managers are brought in. You have a squad that gets bigger and more bloated, and you get players that are sort of disillusioned and not happy and what have you, and that can set in. So look, it is not the absolute answer having money. Clubs that have had money, of course, you would fancy them to have more success, but you still have to use it properly and manage them players well.
Yeah, and I think the point you raised towards the end of that, about patience with managers, sometimes backing your manager by signing a lot of players, but then within a week or two, and there's an example of this at Carlisle, wasn't the January transfer window, signing all the players for Mike Williamson week after the end of the transfer window, you get rid of him, which forget recruitment or whatever, it just seems utter lunacy on the face of it. And I guess both MK and Carlisle have kind of fallen into that trap a little bit this season. We're probably the complete opposite of that, in terms of the owners have a much stricter hand on the reins, and the head coach has an input, but it's not, I'm having them 7 players, is it? It's very much, there's a coordinated approach from up top that, irrespective of the head coach, there'll be certain players that Notts are looking to buy. And if they changed head coach, they're probably still looking at those same players. So there, if you like, is a kind of way of looking at 2 different models and approaches to it all. Somerton Park seems to have jogged quite a few people's memory. Stephen Newton, I saw Notts twice at Somerton Park in the 80s. Pythagorean says, I think Newport played at Gloucester too. Yeah, they did. And I wasn't fully aware of this, or I'd forgotten about it. Ian Cooksey said Newport weren't allowed to play in Wales after they went bust. That's why they had to play matches in England for several years. That's interesting. Ian Cooksey said he went in 85, 86, 86 and 87 to watch Notts play there. Pythagorean remembers the coal cinders. Used to have clinker or stuff on Notts' terraces, I remember, in the 70s as well. Chris J's already working out that Tyler Miller is good at saving crucial penalties. He knows more about him even than I do. Can we give a shout out to Didsey, says Phil Summer, who set up the second goal. He did, going down the right. Bit like Gaza in Euro 96. Kay says, I've got a feeling Crowley won't play on Wednesday. Come off after 60 mins against Fleetwood. I think he'll be there, but let's see. Managing minutes and all of that. Gary Phillips, I can remember Stell getting a better reception from the Notts fans than the London fans when we played at Lincoln some years ago. Ian Cooksey, it's not the fact that how he left, it's how he left. Ian's not a fan, for those of you who read the rest of his message, of Mr. Crowley. Richard Elvin makes a point. Dan Crowley won't forget or forgive the awkward split and the way Knotts posted on his departure announcement. Yeah, I think it was a less than complimentary photo, wasn't it? A lot of people read a lot of things into that. Tim Elsop has a story from travelling to watch Knotts at Somerton Park. Back in the early 80s, might have been the late 70s, I drove from RAF Manston to Newport for a night match. On the way back, my rear lights had gone, so had my rear fog lights on. And yeah, I remember this guy playing for Newport before he hit the big time. And John Aldridge was playing for Newport. And I think they had a very prolific striker, like you, Stell. I think Tommy Tynan used to play for Newport, and he got something like that 250 league goals or something. I'm sure he was down there.
Did he go on and played at Plymouth as well, didn't he? Tommy
Yes.
Tynan, if I remember rightly.
Yes.
Yeah, name from the past, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's from the days when you used to see teletext used to have them lists of leading scorers, didn't they, back in the day of all 4 divisions. Yeah, I remember that name, Tommy Tynan, yeah.
I'm sure some of others will remember it. Wayne Wilkins, he's a good stato, is Wayne. Regarding points needed, since home to Bradford, we've picked up 1.85 points per game. Maintain that and we finish on 78. Play to what we'd expect, and I see that average upped, and we get up to 81 points. Somerton Park, says Shane Walker. I remember the railway sleeper stand and winning. Next season, Dale Pikett. I've got a story about Dale. I'm glad he's on. It could be Carlisle versus Truro City in the National League. It's an 880-mile round trip for a National League game. God, blimey, yeah. Truro are, I think, second or third in National League South. Carlisle look like they are heading down to the National League. Now, when a lot of us got off the train at Newport, direct train from Nottingham to Newport on Saturday, we all pay a quick visit to the men's, and this guy looked at me, he says, "Oh, it's Paul, isn't it?" Yes. He said, "Oh, yeah." He says, "The bloke in the urinal there is Dale Pikett. He's always sending messages on your show." So I have seen Dale Pikett in the men's urinals at Newport Railway Station. It's not a story you should possibly mention too much. But anyway, it was lovely to meet you, Dale. With MK Dons, says Martin Blaney, will ditch most of the current players and try to buy the league again next season. Well, I hope the owner's got deep pockets. Gary Phillips, Wrexham are an example of what can happen when you have a very good motivational manager who controls big egos really, really well. There are far more examples of teams who have failed. We've drawn 2 and won 1 of our 3 games with MK since being back in the EFL, says Chris Gosling, and they are worse now. We should certainly play without fear. Des Gillingham, Wrexham. I know that there are some Wrexham fans that dial into this show. Wrexham fan praying with a praying emoji that you go up this season. Good luck. Stell is so right. Mentality means an awful lot. But Chatwin, Charlie Whittaker will be massive for the run-in. AJ, Didsey and Whittaker will get us promoted. Charlie Whittaker I know you weren't there, but he's got another couple. Look, anyone that can score goals from a sort of midfield or advanced midfield role, they're worth their weight in gold, aren't they? You will have seen the goals. What I liked about his first goal was he took it with his wrong foot. Took it with his left foot, didn't try and bring it onto his right. Defender gets across, gets a bit of a block or whatever. He had the confidence to take it left foot. The right foot, I think, was a better finish, you'll tell me. But I thought they were good if it's poacher, but good quality strikes for the goals.
Yeah, good goal scoring instincts. That is, you're not needing it to be perfect. It's left foot, it's right foot. You're going to pull the trigger. If the chance is there and you don't think you can advance it, make it easier for yourself because the defender's coming in, then you pull the trigger, whether that's left foot, right foot. And again, it doesn't have to be the cleanest of strikes. They don't all have to be worldies. But if you hit the target, hit them well enough, you maybe catch the keeper, off guard and not ready if you hit it early. So obviously I wasn't there, but I saw the goals. Yeah, I thought they were both well taken goals, and the sort of goals that, like I say, they're never going to be in a goal of the season competition, but they're vital. This is something we've been saying about. The differences between last season and this season. This season we're far tighter. I just wouldn't say we've scored enough of them type of goals this season. These sort of, I'm not going to say nothing goals. They're worth just as much as a worldie, as a 25-yarder into the top corner. But they are vital because they win your games. They win two of them scruffy-ish strikes. Second one's a decent enough strike. Second one, first one on target. It's great. It's at the back of the net. It's perfect. But again, two goals that win you the game. Suddenly make the difference. If you don't pull the trigger, if you look to make the perfect goal, if you look for that extra pass or passing the responsibility on, that might end up 0-0 game on Saturday. You don't know. We've had games like that this season with similar sort of things, haven't we? Missed chances or maybe not pulling the trigger enough. So, yeah, really pleased for him. And again, another topic we were talking about last week is this, trying not to have permanence in your way of thinking. We would question last week. We were questioning January transfer window. Then one of them players scores both the goals, wins us the game on Saturday, and all of a sudden you go, well, Charlie Whittaker looks like a good addition in January. 4 goals in his 9 starts. And you go, all of a sudden that January window looks a little bit better already. So that's how things can change from every game. Every bit of evidence can make things change. But I think he's certainly shown for, what is he, 21, 22? I can't remember which one he is, what age he is. But he's starting out in the professional game, in the men's game,
Yes,
where it matters. Where it matters. And at that age, it's unusual for somebody to come in and be consistent week in, week out. Since he got that first start at Gillingham, I just like, there's something about him I like, a little bit of dynamism, obviously youthful exuberance as well, legs in the middle, but he's shown he's got a bit of an eye for goal. Then inevitably almost has a bit of a quieter spell, 3-4 games where, it doesn't really happen, nothing major happens for him. But that's what happens when you're in your first, what's in his first dozen games, he's played 9 and I think come off the bench in 3. I might be corrected on that, but, he's got a dozen appearances under his belt. We cannot expect him to be week in, week out winning us games, but credit to him, he's got 4 goals in his first, dozen appearances, and they're going to be vital. And they're going to be vital in the next 7 games that he, along with others, step up to the plate and get. Even if they are goals that aren't going to win a goal of the season contest, the most important one is always the next one. And whoever it is, go and get it. And so Wednesday night's the next chance for it. But yeah, pleased for him. Like I say, I thought he showed a bit of spark when he's come in. Looks like he's got something. Still plenty of development, plenty of room to improve, but that will come. So yeah, you just need a little bit of patience with younger players when, as we said, they were cutting their teeth in the game.
indeed. Somerton Park seems to have generated quite a few stories from the memory banks. Andy Easom says, I was at Somerton Park in the early 80s. It was a boiling hot day. Can't remember the scoreline. And it is an interesting one. I'm not sure if I'm interpreting this correctly, from Phil Summo. He said Mark Somerton, the grandson of the owner of the stadium, hence Somerton Park, I'm guessing, is a Notts fan and listens to the show here sometimes. Luke Beardsley, my granddad saw us beat Newport 11-1 back in 1949. He always tells me about how we always used to beat them heavily in the 50s and 60s. And just the small world that is football, Ian Cooksey, my wife's friend, now lives on the very spot where Somerton Park was. Apparently, the houses are better than the ground. Indeed, well, it certainly seems to have jogged some memories, doesn't it, Somerton Park? But the new ground seems to be a happy hunting ground for us. Also on the subject, a little anecdote. One of our flock, Paul Hawksworth, he's obviously worse at DIY than I am, which is saying something. He somehow managed to drop a big skip door onto his ankle. And so he was carted off to Queen's Medical Centre, spent 3 hours there. He sent me the photos of his ankle this afternoon. It don't look in a great way. He's been told to rest for a while, but he's hoping to come on Wednesday. So if anyone wants to wheel his wheelchair so he can get into the disabled section of Meadow Lane on Wednesday, let me know, and we'll help him get along to the game. Colchester, Stell. What I didn't see it. One or two people that I know were watching the game at their place on Friday. Everybody's tipped to storm the playoffs. Is it lost the last two now? Your point about these things games. A lot of people were picking up on the ground. They have, a couple of wily foxes, don't they? In the Cowley brothers, been there, done it. Got the T-shirt with Lincoln. From a Notts perspective, Saturday, clearly you'd want to be winning, but you're wanting to shut Colchester out of the equation and reduce the 11 to 10 or 9 or whatever.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I say, Notts want to win the game for their own reasons. If that shuts another team out, then great. I think it's almost going to be like that week on week, isn't it now? Or set of fixtures on fixtures. You'd imagine after every set of games, there might be a team sort of too far away, we think. So they're going to drop out, obviously, as we get down the games. But Colchester, yeah, with the Cowley brothers there, they just started looking ominous. Went on a really good run. Now, the two games they've lost, Bradford and Grimsby, so you say, well, okay, not unusual, or you could sort of maybe see that coming. But this is what we talk about with form and how it changes. They go unbeaten for a number of games, win a load of them, and then their three fixtures they're coming up to were Bradford, Grimsby, us. I know they've got a game tomorrow night. I'm not sure who they're playing tomorrow night, to be honest. But all of a sudden, you look back and go, oh, maybe they were winning games that you'd sort of expect them to win, and then all of a sudden they play teams at the top, they start getting beat again. This is what happens throughout the season, and this is why you can never look too far ahead of yourself. It will be difficult, and I agree. I saw the highlights of their game at the weekend, and their pitch did look atrocious with sand pock marks on the pitch wherever. So how it plays, I don't know. It's surprising. It's obviously a fairly new ground, isn't it, Colchester's? So we'll have to see how it plays when we get down there. But yeah, you just never know. Now they've lost two on the spin. How do they respond to that? Again, games tomorrow night. We've got our game Wednesday night before we play them at the weekend. But one thing, with the Cowley brothers in charge, they'll have them right up for it. They'll know what's needed, and it'll be a tough test for Notts, absolutely. But as whoever said, it's the old cliche, isn't it? 7 cup finals, and it pretty much is true. Every game is absolutely vital. 7 to go, we think. 5 wins probably needed. I'd say that doesn't afford too many slip-ups.
They're at Gillingham, I understand, thanks to Ian Haywood and Malvino Pishavi. Almost a local derby, that, isn't it? Gillingham, Colchester, separated by a vast expanse of the Thames, but that's the game in midweek. Dale Pikett out of the Newport railway station urinals. Their pitch is even worse than at Grimsby, so no pretty football from us. David Skinner, who's based down in East London somewhere, desperately trying to get a lift to Colchester from Hornchurch as the trains stop at Billericay on. Yeah, it's a nightmare going on the train. I like to go on the train, but there's no London to Colchester trains. I think you get a bus replacement service from Billericay, David. So if all else fails, you can get a bus replacement. What else have we got? Beddoe is Jacob Beddoe, yeah. Ian Haywood, he's a standout player for me, but wish he could score more goals. Cerula needs to improve in front of goal. The row of seats, I don't know, those who were sat down the side of the ground at Newport on Saturday, there was a long row, probably 15 to 20, all speaking with broad London accents, and I gather, because it was Nick Cerula's birthday or something, and I gather it was his kind of extended family that had all come down to watch him. So it was a good day out for the Cerula family, and obviously Nick played his part in that, and Trusty had a good family birthday party after that. David Skinner, this is before your time, Stel. At least Colchester won't have Ray Crawford. Was it Ray or Ray Crawford playing? That is a blast from the past. I think Colchester beat Leeds, or gave them a run for the money in the FA Cup many years ago. And there's a clue. It's been on the Notts County history page. It's the 131st anniversary today of a very special Notts County occasion. Who knows? Anyone? Who's the first on the message board? Come on. Who's going to get the prize? It's Notts County's 131st anniversary of a very special occasion. This exact day. No one yet? No, still no one. I'm surprised. Martin Shipley says it was Colchester beat Leeds 3-2 that day. Pythagoras says FA Cup. FA Cup win, says Ian Cooksey. Bit more info, please. Malcolm Shearston winning the FA Cup. We're getting there. Go on. Who scored a hat-trick in the final? It wasn't Stell. He was on.
I was an apprentice.
Yeah, that's right.
In the late 1900s, I was an apprentice. Yeah,
it's like pulling hen's teeth. Greza Maxwell, FA Cup win. Sanger Smith, FA Cup. Yeah, who did we beat? Come on, we've only ever won it once. Everybody should know this. Stephen Newton, Jimmy Logan, hat-trick. Good. David Skinner, finally 4-1 versus Bolton. There we go. We've got there in the end. There's a very good book. I think it was David Fells did it. He actually went up to where Notts stayed because it was at Goodison Park, as Ian Cooks has just weighed in there. Beat Bolton, says Martin Shipley. Yeah, we got there in the end. We got there. 131 years. I think, although I've never been fully able to corroborate this, that my great-granddad went to the game. My granddad wasn't allowed to go. He was only about 7 or 8, but they put on a load of special trains, Stel. It took about 3 hours, which is about the same time as it takes today. And that was in 1894.
I was going to say, things haven't moved on that much, have they?
Oh, dear. Anyway, so, right, we've done an hour. Thank you ever so much, everyone. So, Stel, just on the commentary duties, you weren't there Saturday, so you're here with Dave on Wednesday night, correct?
That's right. Yep, that's right. Yep, me and Dave Wednesday, and then, as I say, Adam takes over when Dave gets his whites on for the cricket, and Adam takes over Saturday.
And you got the short straw down to Colchester. It's not the greatest journey, is it? But never mind.
No. Mind you, I miss Newport. They got to say, the person that mentioned about Leggy coming, I take absolutely no apology. They've got the Welsh correspondent in, a bit of quality, Welsh international quality, Leggy, good lad. And he came in, oversaw a win. So hopefully there'll be a couple of get-ins on Wednesday.
Yeah, indeed, we hope so. Quick reminder for everyone that hasn't yet got their Lee Hughes tickets. Lee Hughes Live, our second Magpie Circle outside broadcast. It's from the Big Shed at Trent Navigation on Thursday, May the 1st, 7 o'clock. Doors open. Lee Hughes will be talking about his time at Notts, Munto, Sven, championship seasons, you name it. Clearly a cult hero. Lots of stories. He's looking forward to come. I think a lot of you seen the viral video he's done of doing the Hughes in front of the Houses of Parliament. Tickets are a tenner. You can get them from our Magpie Circle podcast website or from the gigantic site at the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation. Get those in quickly. We're doing very well with ticket sales. And as I said, advanced weather forecast is good. So we will be all right. 2 games to look forward to. We'll be back then next Monday. Thank you as always for your participation and very busy on the message boards this evening. Stel, thank you as always.
Pleasure. Say big week for Notts. 6 points available. Things look very different every week, won't they now? So fingers crossed for 2 wins.
Yeah, and Greza Maxwell is going to bring his Lee Hughes mask along on the night. There you go. And Gary Phillips, they're all coming in on the FA Cup final now. First hat-trick in an FA Cup final, Jimmy Logan. And I think Andy Black ended up doing a lot of work to get a headstone for him at Loughborough because he passed away only a few years after that. But anyway, let's all look forward to Wednesday night against MK Dons. And for those of these heading off to Colchester on Saturday, thank you for everyone. We look forward to seeing you next Monday. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.
Cheers.